Hey, this is Jason here from Weekend RV Adventures. It's a cool afternoon in the middle of November, and here in Ohio that means it's time to winterize my RV. Now if you live in a northern climate like I do, you need to winterize your RV so that you can avoid freezing of your pipes and fixtures in the winter. If you've never done it before, it's not a hard process. It'll take you about an hour, and you only need a few tools to get the job done. The process of winterizing your RV begins with a trip to the dump station. Most likely, this will be at the end of your last camping trip of the season. When you empty your black and gray tanks before winter, you need to be sure that all water is out of the tanks. Any water left in the tanks can freeze against the shutoff valve and cause damage. After your black and gray tanks have been emptied, you're ready to move on to winterizing the freshwater system in your camper. The first step in the winterizing process is to drain your freshwater tank. I've installed a valve on my freshwater drain, and it's tucked right up here behind my sewer hose. Now we'll start draining this valve, and while that's going, we'll move on to the next step. The next step in the process is going to be to drain your low point drains. Now mine are located near the rear of my fifth wheel, just behind the tires. You can see again, I've added valves to these drain points to make it a little easier to drain the water out. From the factory, yours may just have caps, but you should have two lines sticking out from under your RV. There's a hot and a cold low point drain. You'll want to get all the water out of these drains as well before you move on to the next step. Now we'll move on to the water heater. First step here is to remove your cover. With the cover removed, you'll want to find your pressure relief valve. We'll crack this open to relieve any pressure from the water heater. Now I still have the low point drain open, so the water's draining right out the bottom. That's why you don't see anything coming out the water heater pressure relief valve. With that done, we'll take our socket and remove the drain plug. Watch out, because the water is going to come rushing out as soon as that drain plug opens. Now that the water is drained out, I'll remove the anode rod. A new anode rod will be smooth and shiny. As you can see, this one is slightly discolored and pitted, but that just means it's been doing its job. This anode rod should be good for a while yet. If it was down to the small steel core in the center, then you'd know it was time to replace, but I'll be able to use this one again for next season. As I mentioned before, this next step's optional, and I'm going to use compressed air to blow all the water out of the lines. Now when you do this, you need to make sure that your air compressor has a regulator on it and is set below about 50 psi. Your fixtures and your piping in your RV are not designed for high pressure, and you can cause damage if you put more than about 50 psi on it. I'm going to leave mine set at 40 psi because all we need is the air to push that water out, and we don't need a high pressure for that. So I'm going to go ahead and hook this fitting up to my city water connection, and then we'll see what happens over at the water heater. With all the water drained from the hot water tank, we'll put some new Teflon tape on this anode rod, put it back in, and then we'll move on to bypassing the hot water heater. We'll reinstall the cover on the water heater, then we'll go inside, we'll find the bypass valves. In my RV, they're located in the rear bathroom, right under the sink, but yours will probably be inside, right behind your water heater. We're heading inside now. Here's the access panel I've got to remove to get to my water heater bypass valves. With the panel removed, we can see the bypass valves inside. Now your RV may have 3 valves, or it may have a single bypass valve system like mine. In mine, you can see the valve is in line with the cold water inlet at the bottom of the hot water tank. So to bypass the tank, I'll simply turn this valve to the up position, and now the cold water flowing in will bypass the hot water tank and flow back into the hot water lines. On yours, you may have a shutoff valve on the hot and the cold, and a bypass valve in the middle. You'll know when you get in there, and just make sure that the one going the bypass is open, and that the one going to the hot and the cold lines on your hot water tanks are closed. Now that the hot water heater has been bypassed and the access panel closed up, we'll reconnect the compressed air and go fixture by fixture, blowing out the hot and cold lines. I like to start with the outside fixtures, that way I don't dump a lot of extra water into my storage tanks. This outdoor sink line is the farthest away and should get most of the water out of the system before we move on to the other lines. You can see most of the water's out, so we'll close this one and move on to the next. Lastly, I'll blow the air through the toilet lines. Now we're going to take 2 last steps before we're done with the air compressor. I'm going to go open up those low point drain lines one more time to make sure there's no water left in the system, and then I'm going to go connect the air line up to my black water flush. If you left water in your black water flush line over the winter, it could freeze, breaking the line to the tank or breaking the check valve, allowing sewage to come back up through that black water flush line. Now your connection to your black tank is pretty short, so when we connect the compressed air to the black tank flush line, we're only going to do it for a couple of seconds just to blow that water out. I've installed this 4-way selector valve on my camper. I can select from pumping from the tank, filling the tank, using city water, or sanitizing or winterizing. That makes it easy for me to select Winterize, and then just connect a hose to the city water connection and suck the antifreeze into the lines. If you don't have one of these valves, you have 2 options. You can use a hand pump and pump the antifreeze through the lines, or you can install a winterizing kit that mounts between the freshwater tank and the pump. That allows you to connect your antifreeze and pump it into the system. The winterizing kits are only about $10 and pretty easy to install, so it's well worth the investment. With the line now connected from my city water connection down to the jug of antifreeze, we'll go inside and turn the water pump on and start pumping the antifreeze through all the lines to all the fixtures until all we see coming out is pink antifreeze. The antifreeze pumping into the system will start right here with the cold water line on my outside shower and let it run till it sprays pink. Alright, we've got a good flow of pink there. So now we'll switch over to the hot water side. And there we go. As you can see, I've already run my first jug of antifreeze dry. They don't last long at first because you've got to get that initial system primed and all those lines filled. The second jug will last quite a bit longer. We'll move on to this outside sink again, doing hot and cold one at a time. Now we'll move up here, do the same thing in the bathroom. Now we're going to let this one run just a little bit longer to make sure that trap is completely filled with antifreeze, so there's no freezing in the drain lines either. This will also get a little bit of antifreeze down into your black or your gray tanks as you do your fixtures, so that you'll make sure those lines, any water remaining in those tanks, won't freeze either. And it looks like maybe we're out of antifreeze again, so let's switch over and add that third jug. On this kitchen sink, I'm going to want to make sure I let it run down both sides, again to fill the drain traps on both sides of the sink so we don't have any freezing in those drain lines. Now let's do the shower. Hot and cold. Sometimes it may take a moment to get the antifreeze flowing if you get some air in that line from the jug. So just give it a minute, it'll start coming out again. There we go. Now, the last toilet. Now we can turn that water pump off, and that's it. All our lines have been blown out and then filled with antifreeze. So that's it. We've successfully winterized the water lines on the RV. Now if your RV is equipped with a washer and dryer combo unit, you want to check your manufacturer's instructions for what to do with that. You'll probably have to run it through a short cycle that'll pump antifreeze up through the washer and dryer to make sure that it's protected through the winter. Then you'll also want to get some antifreeze down the drain line for the washer-dryer combo. For that, you've got two options. You could connect a hose from your hot or cold line that supplies your washer and dryer, put that down the drain, and turn your pump on to pump a little bit of antifreeze down there. Or if you have access, just take your jug of antifreeze and dump it right down that drain line. In addition to winterizing your water lines, there's a couple other things you should consider doing for the winter. One is to wash and wax the exterior of your RV. This will keep it clean and help protect it throughout the winter months. You should also wash your roof down and use a roof sealant, such as a product available by Dicor. That'll help protect that rubber roofing and keep it lasting a long time. And if you park your RV outdoors, you should consider a cover for the RV to help protect it from the sun's rays. Now, I know your RV may sit outside uncovered year-round, but a little extra protection for those winter months will help everything to last just a little bit longer. And if you park outside, make sure to protect your tires. Your tires should be up off of dirt or grass. They should be up on some treated lumber or gravel if possible. And you'll also want to cover those tires to prevent the UV rays from the sun from rotting them out even faster. So that's it. If this video helped you out and you enjoyed it, please hit the little thumbs up to like the video. That'll help others to find it. Also, if you do anything different or you have any questions, please leave a comment below and I'll get back to you with an answer. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy your next weekend RV adventure.